Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar with corecubed. I am so happy that you are here today. This has proven to be a very popular topic. The first call starts it all, how to convert calls to clients. And we are going to have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. So if you hover over the bottom of your screen, you should see a little Q&A button. That's where you can type your questions in. Please don't use the chat for your questions. We may not see them if they're in the chat. Put them in the Q&A. And if we don't get to your question at the end, because we run out of time to answer, I don't know how many questions we'll have, we will certainly get to your question by email afterwards. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Marissa Snook, and I am the president and CEO of corecubed. I have been working in public relations and marketing for over 20 years with a specialty in digital and content marketing for aging care companies in all stages of growth. And I am super proud to lead an extraordinarily talented team that has decades of home care marketing experience, digital marketing degrees, content writing, and search marketing certifications. Also with me today is Erica Horner, and I will let her introduce herself.
Hi there, my name is Erica Horner. I am a home care sales consultant at corecubed. Prior to joining corecubed's team, I managed home care agencies in multiple locations, beginning with one small home care agency, then expanded my leadership to 8 operations in 3 states. I have led multiple home care operations to sustained organic growth in a variety of settings and funding sources, including everything from Medicaid to private pay, from rural to metropolitan areas. I've also found myself on the caller side of the home care experience with a medically complex child who receives both non-medical home care services and multiple therapies in our home. I understand what callers are looking for and what they need to hear during their transitional time, because I've been on both sides of the inquiry call. I have a caregiver in my home daily. I'm a family caregiver myself. And not too long ago, I was making the types of calls that we are discussing today. Now I use what I've learned in home care operations as well as in my personal experience and apply that in my role as a home care sales consultant. I have found that my dual degrees in business management and psychology are a very unique fit for understanding the needs of our customers. I am very excited to be here today discussing this topic. Today, we are talking about how closing business starts with call number 1 in inquiry management, the topic that I am most enthusiastic about because it is arguably the most important thing that happens at the operation level. This is a topic that I'm passionate about because I love people and I love strategy. The home care inquiry is at the intersection of psychology and business development. So we are going to warm it up on this webinar today, talking about the warm and fuzzy aspects of home care, like compassion, relationship building, and earning trust. We have a lot to pack into our hour today. We will discuss the goals of the inquiry call, the in-home consultation, identify red flags in your inquiry management process, make you laugh with our reenactments of inquiry bloopers, and outline action steps that you can take to improve your conversion rate, including an overview of the consultative sales process. So let's jump right in and discuss how we can help more people in our communities by improving our conversion rate. It all starts with just the right personal touch during that call number 1. I'd like to begin by pointing out that your investment in all other sales and marketing efforts depend on how your inquiries are handled. You can invest a tremendous amount into an impressive website, effective pay-per-click ads, social media advertising, and community outreach. And all of that is just to get the phone to ring, just to be connected with qualified leads interested in engaging your services. But what if your calls are not handled well at the operation? What is your conversion rate? Is there opportunity to improve your conversion rate? And if it could be better, would you even know? The reason that the inquiry call must be so carefully handled and nurtured so lovingly is that all of your sales and marketing efforts come down to this call. Your business has invested thousands of dollars on a website, hundreds or maybe even thousands on a pay-per-click ad. Month after month, you continue to manage your reputation. You invest a lot of time and money into telling people how great you are. And the moment of truth is when they call your office. If they don't feel what you say about yourself, then they are gone and you can't get them back. And that is not a loss that any agency can afford right now. The inquiry call without also talking about an in-person assessment or the consultation. When an inquiry call comes into your operation, your primary goal should be to schedule an in-person assessment or consultation. If you can secure an in-person assessment, you are far more likely to convert the caller to a client. An in-person assessment allows you the opportunity to make a personal connection with the caller. Before they commit to trusting you to send a caregiver into their home, they need to build trust in you, and you need to earn their trust. And your best opportunity to build that personal connection is during that in-person assessment. The body language, the smile, the hand-over-hand handshake, those are some examples of how you can build the relationship and earn trust that cannot be done over the phone. The in-person assessment is tremendously valuable for both parties. Your representative wants to gain trust and close the sale, of course. Your potential client wants to feel confident in their provider and have customized care with a caregiver experience in their individual needs. So be sure that your team is not undermining the value of the assessment. It is your primary goal of the call, and for very good reason. So when speaking about the in-person assessment, we have found that a common mistake is to present this as paperwork. We often hear people present the home assessment as if it is a minor inconvenience, almost apologetically, something like, the nurse will come out to do the paperwork. It won't take long, then we can get started. But that's really not the best approach. By this point, we have already started. The relationship is already being established right here, right now on the phone with the client. We always want to find opportunity to demonstrate our value to the caller. This home assessment is not just paperwork. This home assessment is necessary because we recognize that each of our clients have individual needs and aim to provide top quality, customized care from caregivers specifically trained on their individual needs. The home assessment enables our team to get to know their needs, develop a personalized plan of care, and identify the best caregiver with relevant training and experience to offer top quality care. And that is one of the many reasons that this service is great. So let's ensure that our inquiry call illustrates that and demonstrates the value of the customized care home care offers, beginning with an in-person consultation. Now, we know that not all callers are ready to schedule an in-person consultation, so always be prepared to accept Plan B. Your backup plan, if the caller needs more time to consider options before committing to an in-person meeting, is to, at the very least, collect contact information. You want to have the opportunity to send additional information, which they can circulate within their own families as they are choosing the best care provider. And you want to collect contact information so you can follow up. Okay, so how do we get to that assessment? Well, to begin, let's get into the mind of your caller. Let's discuss what the caller needs to hear from you. At this point in their lives, in this moment, what do they need? And how can you offer that? People are seeking a different kind of relationship with their home care provider than with their grocery store or insurance provider. They want to trust the individuals who work for your company. They want to know that their home, their health, their most precious belongings are safe. People want to be cared for by caring people. Every inquiry call allows you the opportunity to build that trust. You want to move your caller from their starting emotion, which may be a place of anxiety, fear, transition, and urgency, to a more comfortable place, characterized by dependability, security, compassion, expertise, and a safety net for whatever troubles are yet to come. So during your inquiry call, try to find opportunity to showcase your experience and expertise, and let that compassion that you have, let it show at every opportunity. Be engaged, present, and listening actively throughout the call. They reached out to a dependable community resource because they need help. So don't let them down. Identify what it is that they need and then be that. The main point here is to identify the caller's problem and present your services in the form of a solution. If you can do that, if you can remember that, you are more than halfway to closing and will see a high return on investment from your sales and marketing efforts. Okay, now we all train our office staff on the inquiry management process. We provide them with training, we outline expectations, we talk about showing compassion, but is it working? Many of our office personnel have been doing this for a long time. So let's consider, has compassion fatigue begun to inhibit their ability to convert cases? Do you get the feeling that maybe your team is not eager to accept inquiry calls? And is ongoing training taking place? And if there was a problem with the inquiry management process, would you know about it? Are all of your inquiries documented, and how closely are you monitoring the handling of your precious inquiries? So let's talk about some red flags. You might have an inquiry management problem if you have a low return on investment on marketing and sales efforts. If you have a high number of calls going into voicemail instead of being answered, if training or monitoring of calls is not conducted, if scripting is not being used. Now, by scripting, we don't want to sound like robots on the phone, of course. What we mean is representing your agency in a pre-planned and consistent manner. This is most often used when responding to objections. Are objections responded to in a way that demonstrates value? If you are uncertain of any of the above, it is likely time to closely examine your inquiry management process. There is almost always opportunities to improve, and in doing so, increase your conversion rate. Okay, so pay attention here because it's about to get really fun. We have assembled a compilation of real inquiries we have heard. Because corecubed often conducts both internal and external mystery shops, we have the privilege of hearing how real agencies like yours handle inquiry calls. In doing this, we have identified some common errors and have selected some real examples to illustrate key points. Now, these are real examples of inquiries, but we're having fun with this today. We have changed names for privacy and have created some caricatures to make it fun.
Hello, ABC Home Care. This is Marissa speaking. How can I help you?
My name is Erica, and I'm just calling around to help my parents get some help. So can you tell me what type of training your caregivers have?
Sure. Our caregivers are both, well, some are CNAs and some are GNAs, where, they have their jobs working in facilities, and then companion care where they may not have gotten any schooling. But all of our girls go through background checks. Even though with a background check, see, here's the thing that I tell everybody, Erica. If you got valuables at your house, lock them up. Because, who knows? Even though I do a background check, it doesn't mean something wouldn't happen. Oh, and the other thing about who I have, so most of my caregivers are either one of two things, all right? They're moms whose kids have gone back to school, and the other one's just a good number of retired women who are bored and they hate retirement. I tend not to hire anyone as a caregiver who's, under the age of about 40, because they need to be able to relate to the adult, right? Because a CNA is a little different. Okay, but that's a whole licensing process they have to go to school for. And when you're just a companion, I want someone who can remember the way things used to be so they can relate.
That makes sense. Can you tell me what your rates are?
The rates, well, the way the rates are, I'm going to give you rates for overnight, understanding that you didn't request it, but it's $19.50 to $20 something, depending on the care the clients need. Well, during the day, it's 24 to 28, depending on, if it's a week or if it's the weekend, and if it's personal care that's involved or companion care.
Those were some great examples of what not to do. So it's important that we offer solutions to callers. They have problems to solve, have identified your agency as a community resource, and reached out for help. So let's ensure that we are resolving their problems and not adding to their worries. We want to stay in that problem-solving zone throughout the whole call. Be mindful that expressing doubt that you can provide a reliable and carefully selected caregiver creates more concern for your caller. So instead of talking about what you cannot do, work in positive statements about what you can do to solve their specific problem. By the end of the call, they should have less concerns, not more. So be careful not to express doubt in your services, which I understand can be difficult given the staffing challenges we are currently experiencing, but very, very important for the caller experience. Now, one of the greatest benefits of home care is personalization. So let's demonstrate that we listen and we offer custom care solutions to meet their needs.
Hello, this is Down Home Care at Home. This is Lorraine speaking. How can I help you?
Yes, I was looking for care for both of my parents. My dad is pretty unsteady on his feet, but otherwise okay. My mom has some health issues that are related to her being overweight.
Does she have diabetes?
Yes, she does.
Is she insulin?
No, it's diet controlled at this point.
Diet control? Okay. Well, we're not allowed to measure up insulin. That's why I asked. If there's medicines, we ask the family to set up the med box and we can do med reminders. There's a couple of pharmacies in town that bubble pack them together and time stamp them that way too.
Okay, so what can you do for my dad?
Well, we can help him shower, help him dress, get him breakfast, lunch, dinner, do his laundry, change the beds, do light housekeeping, take him to appointments, get him groceries with a list he helped put together, take him to appointments, pick up his meds, anything that's non-skilled. We're a Class B license and we are non-skilled. So if he had wound care, we couldn't do that. We can do medication reminders, but we cannot pass out meds.
Avoid listing services menu style. So it can be very tempting to quickly name all the many ways that we can help them now and in the future. We want them to know what we can do, right? But doing so lacks customization and it can be overwhelming for the callers. Instead, only discuss services relevant to their individual needs. After all, the customized one-on-one care that home care offers is probably one of their motivators for calling. So let's ensure our conversation emphasizes the value of home care. Now, there is a natural conflict of interest that exists when a scheduler takes inquiry calls. But this model can work. It is very common and it can work quite well with proper training and management.
Good morning, Great British Home Care.
Yes, I'm looking for home care services for my mother, but I'm not sure how to get started.
What is her size?
Her size, like her height and so forth?
Mm-hmm.
She's probably about 5 foot tall. She might be a little shorter than that. She's shrunk. I mean, she's of average build.
Is her weight and height appropriate?
Yeah, she's a little softer than she used to be, but according to her BMI, I've never been told it's a concern.
Well, I ask that because I have a lot of caregivers who are a little older and they're not as strong as they used to be. Strictly speaking, my staff isn't capable of 135 and greater kilos.
Okay.
Does she have pets in the house?
No,
Is she a smoker?
no.
Very good. Okay.
Now, with the caregiver, would the same individual come out every time?
Well, it depends on what kind of schedule you're looking for. We're completely at the mercy of the caregivers we have available. I would just have to get from you what days and times you're looking for, and we look at the caregivers we have and their availability.
So the inquiry call is not the right time to begin staffing this potential client, because if that inquiry call is not handled optimally, then there's nothing to staff. Instead, focus your questions on the caller's needs, not your own. Ask open-ended questions that instill confidence and build a relationship. There are times, of course, when we know we will have difficulty staffing, and it's important to be honest. Offering to recruit specifically for their needs is an approach that emphasizes the customization that home care offers, the customer service that you aim to provide, and it keeps the conversation client-centered. Now, presenting rates can be done either during the inquiry call or during the consultation. Either way, they should be confidently presented and always demonstrating the value of receiving home care at home.
Hello, best home care north of the Mississippi, Roseanne speaking.
Hi, I was calling for information about setting up care for my dad.
Oh, okay. Hang on. Uh, let me just grab a piece of paper. It's got all the information around somewhere. This is, oh, Meyer. Close. No. Oh, no, here it is. Oh, gosh. Did you ever feel like you're discombobulated? Oh, something. Oh, gosh. Where are you located? Where's your dad located?
Augusta.
Okay, yeah, that's good. And your name?
My name is Heather Malone.
Okay, and what kind of service you looking for, hon?
Well, I'm looking for somebody to keep in company and check on him. My mom unfortunately had a fall, so she's in short-term rehab. So he's all alone and he needs some help.
Okay, well, we've got an 8-hour minimum per week, so you could do 4 hours twice a week, and that's $27 an hour. Or if you wanted to do 2 hours, that cost goes up to $32 an hour or $64 a shift.
Okay.
That is, of course, well, you'd have to do 4 shifts.
Oh, okay. That's a little higher than I was expecting. Can you help me understand that a little bit better?
Well, ours has been about $27 for over a year now. So, hon, I don't know what kind of companies you've been looking at, but I think most of us are right around the $26, $27 mark. I mean, everybody's going up on their prices. I guess you could figure that out.
So we don't want to provide more information that is relevant, right? By the time you're presenting rates, you should have really gotten to know the client's needs, and you should be able to adapt what you're saying to exactly what they need. So if they don't need overnight care, let's not provide a rate for that service, or suggest that, given their condition, they may have more extensive needs in the future. Instead, this is a good time to highlight your differentiators, as well as the features and benefits that home care offers. This is our opportunity to respond to objections in a pre-planned and consistent manner that is always demonstrating value. Now, this is a 24/7 business. Home care is scheduled around the clock, and how your calls are handled should reflect the quality of care that is expected. Caring extends past business hours, and so should proper call handling.
Thank you for calling Caregivers R Us. This is Chelsea. I'm sorry. How can I help you?
Hi, Chelsea. I was just calling to get some information about setting up home care for my dad. I wanted to get some rates. Can you help me with that?
Unfortunately, I can't. I mean, I'd have to have our care manager, Tina, give you a call tomorrow when the office is back open. Can I just get your name and number? Oh. Thank you for calling Caregivers R Us. This is Chelsea. How can I help you?
I'm looking for information on care for my parents. What is the rate?
Well, it's, by the hour. We can go with 1 hour, which is 30, or then it goes, up every time after that, like $2 pretty much.
Okay, so it starts at 30. That's a little bit higher than I was expecting.
Yeah, that's just the 1 hour. 2 hours, it goes down to 28, and 3 hours, 26. 4 hours or more, it's 22.
Oh, okay.
Does he have Medicare and Medicaid?
Oh, yeah, he has Medicare. Does Medicare cover it?
Medicare does not cover anything. No, ma'am. If he had a long-term insurance policy such as John Hancock or Bankers, it's totally out of pocket. Let me grab my resource book. Okay, I'm gonna give you 2 leads. One of them, I'm not 100% sure if they go in that area, and they do take Medicare.
Does your agency take Medicare too?
No, we're strictly private duty.
We want to make sure we're always giving accurate information on these calls. Our clients expect to receive the same quality of care after hours as they do during regular business hours. And the inquiry call should not create doubt in our ability to meet their expectations. Sometimes we hear an after hours representative say something like, "I'm sorry for the background noise. I'm at the grocery store," which is not the ideal way to handle the call, because after all, every call is very important to us. So let's ensure that after hours calls are being answered by a dedicated representative who can triage, respond, and represent your business well. Now that you've seen what not to do, let's talk about how to approach the inquiry call to avoid these common errors and schedule the assessment. Try adopting a consultative sales approach consisting of 6 easy steps. A consultative approach to sales involves learning the needs of your audience and presenting services in the form of a solution. This approach can lead to increased revenue, a higher conversion rate, and lower customer attrition. Those who have a lot of practice with this strategy have a high conversion rate. They are most successful in scheduling the in-person assessment and therefore have a high close rate. When listening to the inquiry calls, we can hear them move through each step of the process. It's almost palpable. It's really an art form to hear people very skilled at this. I usually spend 2 hours training people in the consultative sales process, and we don't have that much time. So in an effort to be brief, I have pulled out the key points and will be concise. I will first provide a brief overview of each here, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper into each step. Greeting is first. It's an important and easy step in the process. Next is qualifying. Can we actually help them? Is this call worth your time? In interviewing, next, Of all the steps in the process, you are going to spend the greatest amount of time here. This step is essential for trust and relationship building. Presenting is your time to shine. Up to this point, you haven't actually tried to sell anything, and this is the first time you're taking the stage to sell your services. In closing, this is asking for the business. We should be used to this part. Follow-up is the most often overlooked step. It is important to remember that the inquiry management process does not end with the call. Okay, let's take a closer look at each step of the consultative sales process. Now, most agencies say the right words when answering the phone, which typically includes the representative's name and the name of the organization. There are three components often missing in the greeting, and that is tone, enthusiasm, and smile. Yes, the caller can hear you smiling. The enthusiasm in your greeting sets the tone for the rest of the call. You want to send the right message, and that is that you want to help them. They are important to you, and they have reached a nice, caring person, happy to help. If possible, from this point forward, avoid putting the caller on hold if you can. In the qualifying step, your goal is to identify if you should continue the call. Identify if the caller would likely benefit from your services, and is this possibly a qualified lead? Do not provide do not provide rates during the step, even if they ask. To do this, begin by asking for more information about their needs using open-ended questions. Something like, please tell me more about your father. If what they're describing is outside of your scope, take the opportunity to help the caller while also developing your relationships with community partners by referring them to another community resource. Now, if what they are describing is within the scope of your services, respond with reassurance and confidently move into the interviewing step. Now, it is expected that we will spend more time in the interviewing step than in any other step of this process. This is a crucial part of the process. Ask open-ended questions to probe for more information. By the end of this step, you should have a clear picture of what their day looks like, their level of independence, and how a caregiver can help. A common error in this step is to breeze right through the probing questions, knowing that even more detailed information will be collected during the assessment. However, asking these relevant follow-up questions, whether you need the information or not, is key to demonstrating your experience, letting the caller know that you have served clients with similar needs before, and instilling confidence that you have the solutions they need. There are really two primary objectives in the interviewing step. Number one is relationship building. By asking the right questions, we send a message to the caller that we are experts in their condition. We have done this before, we can solve their problem, and they are in capable hands with us. Our second objective is to do some investigative work. Collect information about what troubles the caller. This is important because you will use this information to offer a solution in the presenting stage coming up next. Find opportunity to show empathy when appropriate. Often callers tell personal stories when you're asking these open-ended questions. We want to listen, really listen, and offer the reassuring statements that they need. Remain mindful of what the individual needs to hear and offer that, while still remaining in the driver's seat by asking targeted questions. Use your voice as a tool. Use the tone, because your voice is the only tool you have over the phone. So find opportunities to show empathy, slow down, and match their tone of voice. Saying the right words is not good enough. You have to be human, be passionate, and be exactly who they need. Now, the presenting step is really the first time you have stepped into a sales role throughout this whole conversation. So far, you have listened to what the caller's problems are, acted as a consultant, and by now you should have a good understanding of what they need. Now it is time to use the information you have collected to present your services in the form of a solution. Begin by summarizing what you heard they need, which demonstrates that what they said is important to you. Offer your services as a solution. Recall specific needs the caller mentioned and talk about how the plan of care can address those needs. Focus on what you can do rather than what you cannot do. Quote a rate or a range to be determined at the assessment based on the level of care needed. Provide this rate confidently and unapologetically because you know that your services are worth it. After quoting the rate, move right into emphasizing relevant features and benefits. This is your opportunity to share those memorable and relevant differentiators that make you stand out in a crowded market. For example, if they mentioned a characteristic about their previous home care provider that they did not like, address that head on by talking about what your agency does to avoid that. And if they mention that dad has dementia, talk about your robust Alzheimer's and dementia training program for caregivers. When responding to objections, always demonstrate value. A best practice is to consider your most common objections, such as price or minimum hours required, and write a script of your ideal response. We do not want to sound scripted on the phone, so allow the script to act as a framework for your staff to build upon, adding their own personality and always demonstrating value. Right, let's talk about asking for the business. Now, this step is often missed entirely or stumbled through awkwardly. I think people often feel uneasy about asking for the business, but I'm here to tell you that your caller needs to hear this from you. They need you as a guide. They need to know that they have found someone who can guide them to a solution. And asking for the business, which is really our purpose, is to schedule a consultation. That's the natural next step in this process. So guide them there, take them, show them the way. If you hear the caller say something like, "So what happens next?" or "How do I get started?" you can interpret that as feedback that you could have been a stronger leader in the conversation and maybe change your approach for next time. Find your favorite transitional statement to move into closing, which may be something like, "When would be a good time to do an in-home consultation?" Or if you are feeling less confident, could be something like, "When would you like to get started?" During closing, you are going to outline the next steps that lead to start of care. So they should know what to expect from this point forward. Now, you're going to explain the value of the in-home assessment. And remember, we don't want to undermine the value of this consultation. This home assessment is not just paperwork. It is necessary because we recognize that each of our clients have individual needs, and we aim to provide top quality, customized care from caregivers specifically trained on their individual needs. This home assessment enables our team to get to know their needs, develop a personalized plan of care, and identify the best caregiver with relevant training and experience to offer top quality care. So plan A is to schedule an assessment, and this is your time to make that happen. And because not everybody is ready for an assessment, let's have a plan B. Plan B is to at least collect contact information to continue to nurture the lead. Offer to send additional information by email or by mail, which will usually earn you at least an email address. The follow-up is the most commonly missed step, which is a critical error. You have come so far and invested so much just to be connected with this lead. So don't give up now just because they're shopping around and they're not ready to move forward at the inquiry call. Nurture the lead, continue to check in periodically. Even if they choose a competitor, continue to follow up. Sometimes service promised is not always service delivered. So check in periodically to see how they're doing. You may soon find yourself back at that presenting stage with another opportunity to close. And you can follow up with an easily shareable digital sales flyer. You can usually do this by offering to send additional information by email. And be ready with a professionally done, visually impressive flyer, which they can circulate within their family as they're in the decision-making process. And continue to follow up periodically for up to 6 months. Now, call tracking systems have been proven to be a highly effective tool to both evaluate and identify opportunities to improve our inquiry management processes. Here is Marissa Snook, the president and CEO of CoreCubed, to share more information about this tool.
So even if you think that your staff is handling all of the calls expertly, monitoring those inquiry calls, I guarantee you're going to find some spots for improvement or education of your staff when you're having your own agency mystery shopped. It's really just good business practice to check in every now and then and make sure everybody on your team who answers calls, follows up afterwards, that they're employing the best practices you've laid out for them. Or if you prefer, you can use a call tracking system that records real inquiry calls rather than mystery shopping your own agency. These systems will notify the caller that the call is being recorded for quality purposes. And it's also important that your team knows that those calls are being recorded. But recording those real life situations can create wonderful teaching moments for your staff on how to handle unusual calls or difficult calls. And a side benefit is that you can use the call tracking system to determine how the caller found you. I don't think all call tracking systems do this, so definitely check as you're shopping around. But the ones that can track, it's very advantageous because you can tell whether the call came from a Google pay-per-click ad, from an organic search listing, from your Facebook page, etc. And this can help you track which marketing efforts are bringing in the best results. We have a gift for you today. I'll have Erica go to the next slide. There is a little link there if you would like to download that free tool, which summarizes a lot of the information we covered today. It's a great resource, so please feel free to go to that link and download that free resource. And now we're going to open it up for some questions. So if you have a question, please type it into the Q&A and we will take a look at those.
I saw a question in the Q&A that I'll start there. There was a question about how to respond to callers when the caregivers cannot perform the lifts to avoid injuring themselves. I think there's 4 things I wanted to mention about that particular topic. One is feedback. We want to make sure our clients always know that we welcome feedback. That should start from the inquiry call. We want to get feedback on the inquiry calls. We want to follow that feedback all the way through until they're through as they're a well-established client. And of course, we even want them to share positive feedback online as we manage our reputation management. So number 1 is feedback. We want to welcome it, embrace it. 2 is we want to provide training. We want to let the client know that we will provide training to our caregivers who need additional training. Number 3 is it's important to be responsive. We want to be very quick to respond to things like that. And we want to let the client know that their concern is important to us. We want to handle that right away. And 4, we want to say thank you. We welcome client feedback. That is very important. It's important to the growth of your business. It's important to that particular family. And it's also important for the development of your caregiver so that they can maintain their own safety and continue to develop their skills. So we want to make sure to say thank you and welcome feedback in the future.
Here's a question that's a good one. Do you have a good way, Erica, of presenting rates? Like our rates start at $25 an hour, etc.
So there's usually 2 formats that people use to present rates. One is at the inquiry call, you can present a rate. Our rate for the level of care and what you're looking for, our rate is X, and this is what it's going to be. Or some people say it's going to be a range. So, what we do is customize. So often we don't know what the rate is until we really get to know their individual needs. It is perfectly acceptable to provide a range of a rate. You might say our rate will be between X and Y amount, to be determined when we get to know your needs, when we do our in-home assessment or the consultation. I think what's really important to remember when you're presenting rates is to accompany that with the features and benefits and the differentiators that justify your rate. And you want to present that rate without apology. Be confident in it because you know that your services are worth it. So if you do provide a rate or a range of rate at the call, during that call, you're going to present the rate. And don't pause and wait for an objection. We'll handle the objections after you do features and benefits. So present the rate, confidently move right into the next step. And for that, you will get a qualified caregiver specifically trained. Our caregivers have, these different differentiators and specified training and 24/7 nursing call. Whatever your differentiators are, make sure you address that right then, so that they remember it, because it justifies that rate and it reduces that sticker shock that they might be experiencing. And then you can pause, and then they have the opportunity to object to the price, and then you can handle that with your pre-planned and consistent script that you will have personalized and added your own personality to.
And we have someone who wants to go to the previous screen to get that link again.
So sure. Yeah.
Back one. All right. Difficult callers. Someone wants to interview, if a caller calls and wants to interview several of your caregivers so they can choose the best fit. How would you handle that?
Yeah, that's a tough one. So that is really, there are a couple of options there. Some people choose to, after the in-home assessment, choose a couple of caregivers who might be a good fit, and then have those caregivers go out and meet them and get their feedback. But remember that we are the people in the driver's seat. We are the ones who, and our nurses and our team are the ones to make that decision ultimately. Of course, always welcoming feedback along the way. We certainly want to give them as many options as possible. We want to provide additional training, welcome feedback. But if you do that, I recommend doing it after the assessment, because the caregivers that you choose to present to them, we need to make sure that they're carefully selected and they're all trained and good candidates to meet them.
Okay, I was just told by Katie, who helps us with all the technical issues, that the wrong bit.ly link was there. So I'm posting the right bit.ly link in the chat for everybody. That is the link to the download, the free download. So check your chat box, hover over the bottom of your screen and click on the chat and you'll see the bit.ly link there. Sorry about that. And we did have a couple of people ask if this was recorded. Yes, it is recorded. We will send you the recording if you would like it to would like to share it with team members or would like to watch it again.
Mm-hmm. A couple people in the Q&A they've asked for scripts. Those are highly customized depending on your agency's policies, procedures, and practices, as well as your local market. So I suggest that if you're looking for a script, if you're looking for help with that, then reach out to us and we'll be glad to help you develop one that meets your individual needs.
All right. Here's a good one. If we serve a certain geographic area, at what point in the call do we ask where the person to be cared for lives?
Yeah, so that can work into the qualifying. If you have a small area, and sometimes you get callers that do not, that are outside of your service area, then you can work that into qualifying step when you are trying to determine if you should continue the call. So you can, they'll say, I'm looking for some assistance for my dad. You can say, well, tell me about your dad. If they don't mention the location, go ahead and ask. And what location are you looking for services? And if it's outside of your service area, that is a good opportunity to build some relationships with community partners. You can provide a referral for a home care agency in that area. Make sure to let them know if you can that you've sent somebody your way, and maybe they'll reciprocate.
There's one last question. Someone's considering doing a refundable assessment fee for their nurse to go out and do that assessment. Is that something that we would suggest? They're afraid of losing potential clients.
Right, of course. I'm asked that question a lot. It's tempting to charge a fee for that. However, I think doing that would decrease the number of in-home consultations and that you're able to do. And ultimately, I think it will decrease your conversion rate. We want to get out there. We want to have the opportunity to build a relationship. Like I said, the smile, the handshake, the body language, it gives you a better opportunity to build that relationship. So if we're charging a fee, then I think we're going to have less opportunity to convert those cases. I don't think that would be advantageous long-term.
Yes, anyone who joined late, we did record the webinar, so we will get you a recording. Any other questions?
I just saw a question about location. If there's a business that doesn't have a brick and mortar location, and you manage mostly virtually or from a home office, how do you answer that? Maybe you can talk about your service area. We service these counties. You could talk about you have a lot of clients primarily in this area and how successful you are in this area. And then of course, go on to talk about your differentiators and features and benefits of service. But I think just talking about your service area is a good place to start.
Yeah, and in the chat, somebody posted how frequently or how soon after should you do the follow-up?
Yeah, that's a good question. I should have mentioned that, of course. Yeah, so during closing, when you're talking about here are the steps that need to take place before we get started, they should always know what to expect from the call until start of care. So you should get to know their needs at that time. When would they like to get started? So from the conversation, you should know at what point would it be appropriate. They might say, I'm calling around and talking to my sister. We hope to make a decision by next week. We'll give them a call Monday morning then, or maybe by the end of this week. So for that, you have to personalize it based on their needs for that first call. And after that, you can call them, every week or every 2 weeks. And if you're not getting anywhere, then, by month 2, maybe you want to make it every month. So if they've selected a competitor, or maybe they've hired a caregiver privately, give them 3 or 4 weeks to evaluate if that's going to be a good solution for them, or are their needs still open. And then at that point, you might find yourself back with an opportunity to present your services again.
Very good. And for anyone who's watching this as a recording, we will send the correct bit.ly link with the recording, so you have that as well. And I don't have any other questions. Thank you, everybody, so much for your time today. I know you guys have lots of things on your plate. I hope we were able to give you some very informational, educational stuff, as well as entertain you a little bit, maybe make you smile. So thank you again. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, that was fun. Thanks.